Hi, this is Bird from Bird's SVGs, and in this video we'll be putting together the spooky light box, and that's from the Creak and Shriek SVG collection. Now this is essentially a shadow box with decorative layers inside, and then we back it with vellum so we can put a light behind, and then the light illuminates the layers inside and then gives you a graduated light effect. So the first job we're going to do is we're going to fold along the score lines. I'm starting with my side pieces of my frame. Now these are the pieces that are slightly shorter, and then they've got these protruding tabs. Now I need to add glue to the inside of the edge that's got the cutaway corners, and they need to be on the outside of my tube. So you're making these little kind of square tubes that are going to form the outside of your frame. So again, we're adding glue to the edge that's got the cutaway corners. Then you want to fold it so that long tab will be on the outside. Now you can see I've got some exposed card underneath, and we're going to use that later on, put some glue on it to sturdy our frame up. Okay, so we're now going to score along, fold along the score lines on our top and bottom. Now the only thing we need to be careful of here is we need to make sure that you've got two ends. One end is squared off and the other end has got cutaway corners. We need the end that's got the cutaway corners to be on the same side as our cutaway corners on our side pieces. So then the two come together and butt up against each other like a little mitre corner. So I'm adding some glue onto those protruding tabs, and then putting one of my top or bottom into place. I'm gluing the other side onto my top or bottom, making sure that I come right up to the corner. You want to make sure that everything's at nice right angles. Okay, just going to put the last piece into place now, and again I want to be careful to make sure that the outside edge that's got the cutaway corners is on the same side as the cutaway corners on my side pieces of my frame. So I'm taking a bit of extra care to make sure that my corners are meeting up well. That I'm not going over the corner, but I'm not too far away from the corner, that my my edges are right on top of the perforated line. Okay, I showed you these little exposed corners here, these little triangle pieces earlier. I'm now putting some glue on them. I'm just fastening that back side onto them, and then that gives me a nice kind of sturdy frame to work with when I'm putting my top and bottom pieces together, because everything's already held at a nice right angle, and it kind of does the job for you then. Okay, once you're happy that the glue's taken hold, you can flip it over, and then you've got these other kind of overlapping pieces here, which I'm just adding some glue to. It's a little triangle piece, that just overlaps here, and it just helps the finished frame be all the more rigid and sturdy. And now we're going to add some glue to the whole of that long tab that's going to be kind of rolled onto the inside. All you need to make sure of here is that the edge meets up with that line from the back edge of the frame. And then you know that you've got a nice right angle. So you just want to spend a minute making sure that that's meeting up with that back frame there. And then onto the other side. So again, a little bit of glue into those little triangle pieces that overlap. And then I've put a light covering all over that long tab that's going to get rolled onto the inside. And I'm doing my best to make sure that the edge is lined up with the frame on the back of the frame there, or the edge of the frame. If you need to flip it over, if it's best close to you, or you know, from the other side to you, you know, turn it around, do whatever is best for you, just to make sure that you've got that all nicely lined up and everything's at a nice 90-degree angle. And then you can go ahead and start putting your internal layers in. So I'm starting at the back of the frame. So this is the back layer. And I'm folding the tabs away from me. Now, to make sure that you've got it the right way around in your frame, you want the tree that's got the little branches that are hanging downwards, that will need to be on the left hand side of your frame. So if you're popping this into the back of your frame like I am, it will actually be on the right. So when you flip it around, it will be on the left. Now, I thought this was a little bit snug when I was putting it in, and I thought I'd done something wrong. But they are meant to be that snug. It's when you put the glue in and you press those sides against the edge of your frame, it will go in there snug as anything. It will be perfect. So what I'm doing is I'm putting some glue just on the bottom tab, and then it's kind of like a lever. So I'm pushing it in so the tab is kind of flush with the back of the box. So if you're laying your frame down on your desk, the tab will rest against your desk as well. And then I'm putting a little bit of pressure and just smoothing along that edge and making sure it's all in place. Now I'm going along and I'm putting some glue on the other tabs. Now what I could have done there, and I don't know why I didn't, is I could have levered that whole piece forward and put glue on all the three sides at once. But I obviously decided to do them one at a time on this one. So when I'm popping this in, I'm making sure that the back edge of my tab is flush with the back of the frame. And then smooth along it with your finger or use a bone folder, something like that. I'm just working on my last edge, my last tab, making sure it's flush with the back of my frame. And there you are, it fits perfectly. Okay, this is my middle insert. And again, I'm folding the tabs away from me. Now with this layer, just in case you aren't using paper that's got a textured side on it like I am, you know which way's the front, because the spooky tree, the tree with the face on, will be on your left hand side. So you want the tabs to be facing away from you. And again, I'm putting the glue on the bottom tab. It's much easier to just do it on one. pop it into place, because if you got glue on all of them and you're trying to get it in, you can make a right mess, believe me. I've done it. Okay, now there isn't quite enough room for me to get my finger in there and smooth along that tab, so I'm just using a bone folder. Anything you've got that will fit in the little gap. And then I realised it's on a lever, it'll actually lift out. Okay, so I'm going to put some glue on my other 3 tabs now. I must be feeling a lot more brave now, putting glue on all 3. And then when the tabs kind of straighten out, the back of the tab will be resting against that back insert. So it should be butting up right against it. And then you know you've got enough room in there for your front layer. So I'm getting my bone folder in there for anywhere that I can't actually get my fingers in. I'm making sure that I've smoothed out all of my tabs, that everything's where it should be. My layer is slid back enough so it's resting against the back insert. Okay, so again, I'm folding the tabs on the front layer away from me. But this time we've only got 2 tabs because it's just a little corner piece. We've just got a tab up the side and down across the bottom. So when I pop this piece in, the tabs are resting against the middle layer. The back edge of the tab will be resting against the back layer. And the little pumpkins are almost right at the front. There should be a tiny gap in front of them. And then I'm just smoothing that side tab into place, making sure that it's butted up against my second layer. My pumpkins were kind of curling forwards a little bit, so I was just encouraging them to kind of go backwards a little bit. I didn't want them resting against the acetate too much. So that's all I was doing there. Okay, now I decided to use double-sided sticky tape to add all of my acetate and vellum layers on this project. Sometimes when you're using acetate, you can make a little bit of a mess with glue, and also because acetate is non-porous, it can slide around and it can take a very long time to dry. It will dry eventually, but because acetate is essentially like plastic, it just takes ages to dry. So I'm using double-sided sticky tape. Now there is one problem with that. You don't get any wiggle room, so you don't get any kind of second chances. So once it touches, it's stuck. So you need to be a little bit careful. I didn't quite get mine right, so I may have to trim a little bit of acetate off one corner. But it was pretty good. Okay, so again, you get a cover frame to go over the top, and then that covers over all of your glue or double-sided sticky tape. And also, if you wanted to maybe emboss this piece, or add some kind of decorative front to your frame, you can do that with this piece. Now what I'm doing here is a bit of an old school technique that really does work. So I've stuck all my tape down to the edge of my my front cover, and then I'm bending back the corner pieces. Now what this does is it kind of elevates the piece slightly, so you can get it into position before you push it down. So all of the little corners of tape you've got that you bent over, they're holding the frame away the front cover away from the frame. So you can kind of offer it up, place it over, and then once you're happy, smooth it down. And it worked really well. So if you're doing double-sided sticky tape, I would definitely recommend this. So just bend back your corners, fold them over. And there, I was really happy with how that fitted. Okay, now onto my back, and I've got my vellum layer to go on here. Now this time we've got a little cutout on the vellum. Now if you get the vellum the wrong way round, it won't quite be over the owl. So you need to make sure that you've got your vellum the right way round before you... In fact, I decided not to put the tape on the vellum. I decided to put the tape on the box itself. So that way I would make sure that I got the vellum the right way round, because these things can happen. So again, I'm folding over, I'm lifting up the corners of my double-sided sticky tape, the cover, what do you call it? The backing. Now, obviously I had to take the inside area off because I can't take that off. Now, as you can see there, the little moon cutout wasn't over the owl, so my vellum was the wrong way round. Right, so I'm just lining it up with the corners of my box and then smoothing it into place and then removing the last of the double-sided sticky tape. Now, like I say, you can only do that technique around the outside edge because you can't get to that inside edge. Once the vellum's on, it's kind of enclosed. Okay, so again, you've got another cover to go around the edge of the back, and that makes everything nice and neat. It hides away all your glue or your tape or whatever you're using to put your vellum into place. Another reason I like using tape rather than glue with vellum is that vellum will often buckle if there's any moisture, and a lot of glues, well, some glues have got a higher water content than others, and they will buckle your vellum and it will dry like that. It will dry buckled. So if you want to avoid that problem, if you use your double-sided tape, because obviously glue is better for your construction, but whenever you're introducing acetate or vellum, I would always recommend using tape. Okay, I've got these little stand pieces to go on the back of your frame. Your light box will actually stand up perfectly fine on its own, so it's up to you if you'd like to add these. But whether you choose to use them or not, once you've added them to your frame, they won't actually get in the way because they don't actually overlap the vellum area, so they won't obscure the light at all. And then once you've got them folded out, you've got the whole width of the back of your frame to pop your light. Please don't use a naked light, a naked flame or anything. But you can use a bundled up string of lights, or you can use a penner candle, or you can use an LED light. Any will work with this because, you know, there's plenty of room there for you to pop any electronic lights that you have. Now this does actually give you quite a good effect during the day if you were to pop it into your window, and that will give you, you know, a partial effect. But obviously the best effect comes at night, and it's quite a dramatic difference at night because I don't think that it's easy to tell that that's actually made from white cardstock. So I hope this brings an extra dimension to your Halloween festivities, and that it's a great addition during the day too.